Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro received an unpleasant surprise over the weekend when someone set his house on fire while his family was inside the home. That's right. They were inside the house. We're going to go ahead and get started with that story, ladies and gentlemen. Things are up in smoke. Let's go ahead and bring in this clip here from CNN.
This morning, a man is charged in connection with an arson at the Pennsylvania governor's residence while Governor Shapiro and his family slept inside. Pennsylvania State Police said that Shapiro and his family were evacuated around 2 o'clock Sunday after the home was set on fire. No one was injured, but as you can see, the fire caused significant damage to the home.
We do know that this attack was targeted. We don't know the person's specific motive yet, but we do know a few truths. First, this type of violence is not okay.
Joining me now, CNN's Jean Casares. Wow, this is,
Let's pause here for just a second. So more information has been released. They do have a suspect. We'll go ahead and talk about that in just a second, but I just want to let you know that the police did not find the suspect. He turned himself in to the police. At that point in time, the speech, or part of that speech that you heard Governor Shapiro give, they didn't know. They didn't know who did it. They didn't know what the reason could be. But I have more information this morning that could be quite appealing to you. Yes, this was a personal attack, and also the individual who decided to do this was obviously trying to get back at Governor Shapiro because of his own financial situation. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I do want to make sure I issue a disclaimer here. We do not condone violence on Sab's podcast. We don't condone that here. But this particular story about Governor Shapiro's house being set on fire, this is something that I was trying to warn people about for years. I feel like that eventually we get to the point where it's not a war between red team and blue team. It's a class war. It is a war between the haves and the have-nots. And you'll see that when we get to the story about the suspect.
Josh Shapiro, they were sleeping in the home. They had just celebrated Passover, and someone set their home on fire. What can you tell us?
Well, we've got the criminal complaint now, and in fact, we have got a lot of information. First of all, the charges. The top charge is attempted homicide. Wow. That this person tried to kill the people inside with these homemade incendiary devices. Next, aggravated arson. We also have burglary of a home. And then we have, as the fifth count, terrorism. Cody Balmer is the name of the suspect who has been arrested.
Okay, Cody Balmer is the name of the suspect. Let me go ahead and add a little bit more context here. Many of you may be wondering, how is it that this was able to happen to a governor's home in the first place? Don't they have some type of security? I don't know. I was kind of surprised as well, but it just goes to show you how easy it was for something like this to happen. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking as well is that this must have been some type of act of anti-Semitism. I don't think that's what this is. I don't think this has anything to do with Josh Shapiro being Jewish. I think this is a financial situation. And I think what you're seeing happen is someone basically taking it out on those who have, someone who's a part of the have-nots who's taking it out on those who have, particularly in this case, the governor of the state of Pennsylvania, which is where the suspect Cody Balmer lives. Now, Cody Balmer also had issues with the Biden administration as well. This isn't just about Governor Shapiro, but they found tweets and posts on social media that showed that he had criticism there too, but the attack was not on former President Joe Biden's home. The attack was on Governor Shapiro's home, which tells you that this may be more of a local issue. Let's continue on.
Arrested. He actually had a friend of his, a female, call police to tell them he wanted to turn himself in. He turned himself in. He was given his Miranda rights, but he started to talk. Here's what we know. He said that he walked about a mile to get to the house. And that's when he he jumped the fence, threw the first incendiary device into a room. Police tell us that was the piano room. And then it took off. And then he went to the second window he saw and threw a second incendiary device in. That would be the dining room. It took off. He said it was Heineken beer bottles that he had put gasoline in. He jumped through the second window. He was actually in the mansion at that point. And
this goes to show you how bad Heineken is. I never understood, not to make a joke out of this, but I never understood what people saw in Heineken. I always thought it was really gross, but very interesting there.
And then finished his business and left. He was asked by police, did you believe that somebody was going to be asleep in the house at that time? He said, yeah, I knew that was a possibility. That's important.
Yep.
State of mind, that goes to intent to want to kill who was ever in that home. He said he hated the governor. Now, motive is not in this description right here. He may have told them more, but they don't need motive. They need the elements. But here is what the governor had to say the family was doing the night before.
Hear me on this. We celebrated our faith last night proudly. And in a few hours, we will celebrate our second Seder of Passover again proudly. No one will deter me or my family or any Pennsylvanian from celebrating their faith openly and proudly.
Yeah, I don't think that's what this is. I knew he was going to go there, right? And I knew the media was going to go there. They're trying to say, we showed you that anti-Semitism is on the increase, it's on the rise. I don't think that's what this is. I think this was a personal vendetta against Josh Shapiro's policies. I don't think this has to do anything with his religion or his faith, but of course he would take it there. So I do want you guys to pay attention to the way that corporate media is discussing this. When we get into a little bit more about Cody Balmer and his situation and what happened with him financially, I think you'll understand why this may have happened. Again, we do not condone violence on this show, but I have been trying to warn people for the longest time that eventually the people that have nots, the working class, the working poor in particular, eventually these people were going to rise up against their class interests. And I think we've seen this happen in other countries, right? We've seen it happen in France. They had the yellow vest. France is notoriously known for this, right? It's only a matter of time before you would see people rise up here in the United States as well, especially since we have had a Trump administration, then a Biden administration, and then back to a Trump administration. People are starting to see, hey, the Democrats aren't fighting for us either. So I think more people are starting to realize that maybe the problem isn't these two parties. Maybe the problem is corruption and an oligarchy. Let's continue.
So then the police also asked the defendant, what would you have done if the governor had confronted you in the mansion? He said, I would have taken my hammer and I would have started to hit him. And they found, Sarah, a sledgehammer at his home.
That is terrifying. Jean, I know you got this information just a few moments ago, and you really sort of broke down why terrorism is one of the charges there. I'm sure we will be learning more. Thank you so much for that. It's great.
CNN's Danny Freeman has more now from Philadelphia.
It was an extremely troubling and frightening night in Pennsylvania's capital after Governor Josh Shapiro's mansion, the governor's mansion residence, was set on fire intentionally, according to Pennsylvania State Police. The main headline that we learned Sunday afternoon is that there was a suspect taken into custody, 38-year-old Cody Balmer. He'll be charged with attempted murder, terrorism, aggravated arson, and aggravated assault. That's according to the Dauphin County District Attorney. But here's a little bit of a timeline of the best that we understand as to how this all unfolded.
Let's go back a little bit here. I want to look at the little bit of the details here, right? So he was 38 years old. 38 years old. You're looking at, this is someone who still has a great part of their life still ahead of them and was willing to throw all that away. It's not like this is someone who was like in their 60s or, you know, even late 50s or whatever. No, 38 years old. He still has like 30, maybe 30, 40 plus years left. Maybe 50, who knows? And he was willing to throw all that away. Why would someone do that? Why would they be willing to throw it all away? Probably if everything else was already thrown away, or he felt like he had nothing left. Let's continue.
Murder, terrorism, aggravated arson, and aggravated assault. That's according to the Dauphin County District Attorney. But here's a little bit of a timeline of the best that we understand as to how this all unfolded. On Saturday evening, Governor Josh Shapiro was holding a Passover Seder for the first night of the Jewish holiday of Passover. He was with his family. He had guests over at the governor's residence as well. They all then went to sleep. And then at some point in the middle of the night, just before 2 a.m., Pennsylvania State Police say this man, Balmer, jumped a fence at the governor's residence, evaded state troopers who at that time actually realized that there had been a breach. The man was then able to break into the residence.
So again, another question I have is, are there no cameras outside the governor's house? Because again, like I said, the police didn't find him. He turned himself into the police.
Set fire to the residence, escaped then by jumping back over the fence. He had homemade incendiary devices on him, according to Pennsylvania State Police. Then at 2 a.m., Governor Shapiro said that he and his family and some of his guests who were staying over were woken up by bangs on the door because first responders were alerting him that part of the residence was on fire. Thankfully, though, the fire was in a different part of the building from where the governor, his wife, family, and guests were, and first responders were able to knock that fire down. Amazingly, no one was injured. But again, now there is a multi-agency investigation ongoing into exactly what happened here. The investigation being led by the Pennsylvania State Police, but also being assisted by the FBI. And I just want you to listen to how Governor Shapiro characterized what he was feeling after this entire incident, clearly overwhelmed by the level of support that he's received from so many across the country after this incident. But also he said that he will not be deterred by violence from doing his job or by practicing his faith.
Again, this is not a faith thing. I do not think this is a faith thing. So the reason why I wanted to cover this story is because I wanted to forewarn you about the narrative that would come from corporate media around this particular issue, right? Just because someone did this, which it's wrong, what they did is wrong, I'm very clear about that. That doesn't mean they did so because of Josh Shapiro's faith. But that's the narrative that the media wants to spin here. I mean, this Cody guy, he was willing to he wasn't just only trying to take out Josh Shapiro, he was willing to take out his whole family. And that's when you're just like, I don't have anything left. That's when you know that they didn't feel like they had anything else to continue on for. And I sincerely hope people pay close attention to the way that the media is going to spin this, right? Yes, it is wrong that he set Governor Shapiro's house on fire, but it doesn't mean that he did it because of his faith. But that's what corporate media is going to do. That's the narrative that they are going to try to push, because again, don't forget the poll that recently came out where the majority of Americans don't have any love for Israel, boo. I mean, how could you? After genocide, right? The majority don't. So corporate media's job is to try to spin this in such a way that is going to increase support for Israel. Don't forget about that.
This kind of violence is becoming far too common in our society. And I don't give a damn if it's coming from one particular side or the other, directed at one particular party or another, or one particular person or another. It is not okay.
Now, Pennsylvania State Police investigators say that this investigation is ongoing, and they're also reviewing security protocols at the governor's residence. At this time, CNN has not been able to get in contact with an attorney for Balmer. Danny Freeman, CNN, Philadelphia.
What questions do you still have? What is standing out to you?
Well, the biggest thing is everyone's going to ask, how could he get over the fence and into the house without the troopers finding him? As you look at the property now, it's actually fairly decent from the fence line to the house. It's 2 a.m. And anytime the first time something happens, it's really tough to anticipate that. No one's ever broken over the fence and lit the residence on fire. So that's not what they're expecting. They probably.
Yeah, okay, but the thing is, so it goes to show you there was no security there in the evening, apparently. If he was able to just jump over the fence like that, Where was the security? Do governor mansions, like, do they have security? Like, so this raises a question. I mean, think about it, guys. Within 1 year, we have seen an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And now you see someone try to burn a governor alive. Never remember this kind of thing happening within 1 year span before, and not as long as I've been alive. Very interesting. But the security concerns, I'm actually really surprised by that.
We had some type of protrusion alarm that someone got over, and they were looking for someone who was on the grounds, maybe looking to, do some graffiti or something along those lines, because they haven't had something this serious. So I think when they look at the after action, and they're going to be very critical, they're going to need technology, sensors, lighting, motion detection lighting to help them do it, have a dog on presence, up the number of people that are on the residence in the middle of the night, because now it's coming to the point where this is going to be prevalent. Violence is starting to happen. As Andy McCabe said last time, there's no federal domestic terrorism charges. There are state ones. So that's going to come into play on the prosecution side. But I think really what's going to happen is you're going to see a much bigger detail, and you're going to see more permanent personnel around his residence and his family.
So one thing I want to say here, when they say violence is starting to happen, I want to be very clear. America is a violent country. It has been as long as I can remember. I mean, we're talking about a country that has school shootings on the regular, to the point where when you hear the news about a school shooting, it's not even a surprise anymore. I don't even think people aren't even shocked anymore. So this whole violence is starting to happen. No, this has always been a violent country. Always been a violent country. We'll go on a little bit more here, and then I want to get to more about the suspect.
It is so striking to know that this person was able to make it inside the governor's residence. And the way they were describing this, that this person, they said, was quite methodical in how they did this. They had these homemade incendiary devices, as you and Danny noted, and then they were back over the fence, and that they were apprehended, I believe, just a little time ago. It is remarkable that all of that was able to happen. And we look at the images. This was a very, very serious situation.
Oh, absolutely. If he had a better layout of the house and understanding maybe where they're at, and he was more determined to actually do harm to them, I think you could have a very different situation. I think probably when he went in and lit the fire, the people that were on call at that time were going directly to the family to get him out. And it probably lessened the number of people that were able to look for him, because you want to deal with his safety first. Again, I think you're going to see a lot bigger presence when they get this house repaired and he goes back in there, that they're going to have more permanent personnel around there. They're going to have probably dedicated people, and then you're going to have to harden the entries and like that. So when I do security assessments, that's what I look at. If someone gets over the first barrier, how long does it take them to get to the next barrier? How quickly can they get through that? Because that all determines what you have to put in place to understand that if someone's motivated and they want to get in there, how fast they can do it.
Also, I have to say that fence isn't particularly high, right? That's not a high fence, but Josh Shapiro was lucky to be alive, considering, I mean, if it wasn't for that knock on the door to wake them up, Josh Shapiro may not even be here today. Like, I don't think people realize just how serious this is. Now, when we get to the suspect here, I want you guys to see this. Man harboring hatred for Governor Shapiro, charged with terrorism in governor mansion arson. Let's get into it here. His name is Cody Balmer. 38, has been formally charged with 6 felonies, including attempted homicide, aggravated arson, and terrorism, and 2 related misdemeanors in the early Sunday fire at the governor's residence that left 2 rooms with significant damage. As of earlier Monday, Balmer had not been arraigned. He had been taken to an area hospital where he was receiving treatment for an undisclosed medical event not related to the incident or arrest. So this is something that I wanted to point out to everyone. Apparently, he had some type of a medical issue that they're saying was not related to the incident. So now we're talking about financial issues. We're also talking about healthcare. Let's continue on a little bit more. He remains under state police supervision, and he had been taken into Dauphin County Prison for arraignment when he is released, authorities said. So let's go into what the motives may have been. Balmer, in an interview with police after his arrest, admitted harboring hatred for Shapiro and that he would have beat him if he found the governor Sunday morning. And as you can see here, like the images, I mean, some of these rooms are through. Okay, some of these rooms are like done. And even if the rest of the house does not look like this, you still can't stay in that house anyway, right? Because the fumes from the smoke and the fire are still there. So they can't stay in that house. I don't know what's going to happen to the house. But getting into more information here, we already saw the details about how he was able to enter the property. But like I told you, that fence, in my opinion, was not a particularly high fence. But he turned himself in. An ex-girlfriend called state police and said Balmer confessed to her that he had started the fire and asked her to turn him in. On Sunday, state police offered $10,000 reward for information that leads to a conviction in the case. So think about that. He told his girlfriend to call and turn him in, and the state police offered a $10,000 reward. So that tells me he wanted to make sure that his girlfriend got some money out of this. This is the part I think people may not connect the dots, but think about that for a second. If you have someone who's dealing with financial issues and they committed the crime, instead of just saying, I'll voluntarily call them and tell them I did it, he wanted the girlfriend, the ex-girlfriend, to call so that way she could get the money. It goes on to say here, yeah, you can see more pictures there. Like I said, it's pretty bad. A short time later, a member of state police, Balmer, turned himself into a state trooper outside the department Elmerton Avenue headquarters. He allegedly told the trooper that he started the fire at the governor's residence. So again, no denial, right? But here's a little bit more. Who is Cody Balmer? Be the light you want to see in the world. This apparently was from about 3 years ago. A picture here of what looks like Molotov cocktail there. It says that he is scheduled to appear in Dauphin County Common Pleas Court on April 16th on 3 misdemeanor counts and misdemeanor simple assault from January 2023 incident. According to the public court docket, he also pled guilty to felony charges of forgery and attempted theft by deception in 2016. He served 18 months probation. Online records show his Canby Street home was in foreclosure last year and sold in September for $60,000. These other crimes, not setting the house on fire, but these other crimes seem like crimes of poverty, right? This is what it sounds like. If we're looking at forgery, usually that's done to get some type of fraud to get money. Attempted theft, obviously. And then there's the issue here with the home. The home went into foreclosure and it sold in September. His last public post on Facebook, Balmer described himself as a certified master mechanic offering convenient mobile service and roadside service by appointment. He posted a 2019 photo of his certificate of the National Institute for Automotive Service Excellence. At least several earlier posts on the page appear to mock President Biden, including a 2021 meme that said, Joe owes me $2,000, RIP Joe Biden. Whoops, that's in May, not my president either. So it sounds like Cody may not have received that stimulus check, right? So Biden promised the $2,000, et cetera. He won the state of Pennsylvania, and then Pennsylvania went right back to Donald Trump in 2024. So again, what I'm gathering from this is financial issues. There's nothing I see or read so far that indicates that this has anything to do with religion. Okay. So further on, Ballmer does not appear to be a Trump supporter either. In a March 2021 response to a meme he posted about gas prices, Ballmer wrote, $1.85, but I said the same explicative when Trump took office. I don't play favorites, especially since they all suck. Online records show Ballmer is registered as an active voter, but did not declare a political party. He last voted in the 2022 general election. Among his 2022 posts and memes that read, "Hey friend, I know the world is scary right now, but it's gonna get way worse. And knowing is half the battle. The other half is extreme violence." Okay. So this is what I was talking about. Financial issues. This is why I continue to say that one day, I really believe more people, especially those who are working poor, are going to see that it's not red team, blue team. It's top bottom. And it appears that Cody was one of those people that had financial issues. He lost his home. Now, this is not to make excuse for him setting someone's house on fire, no, and trying to kill them, no. But the warning that I gave, that if the Democratic Party does not become the working party again, if the Democratic Party does not feel the needs for the working class, that eventually people will give up and they will resort to other means. And I think that's what you're seeing here. Again, I don't think this has anything to do with Josh Shapiro's faith. I think it has to deal with money. It's been a crazy time, you guys. I mean, it's only April in 2025. But while you see this oligarchy tour that Bernie and AOC are doing right now, remember, a lot of times they're calling out the Republican oligarchs and not really calling out the Democrat oligarchs. Now, I know Bernie did mention that during his town hall, but I'm seeing clips from the rallies. And the people have this perception that it's the oligarchy is the Republican Party. The oligarchy is both parties. And this is why I said what you should be telling people is we really got to find a way to break the system. We are past reform. We are past reform. You have to break that system and you have to make the system work for the 99%. And that's not going to happen within either one of those parties. And it seems like Cody realized that. Crazy story, folks. It's crazy story, crazy time. Like I said, Josh Shapiro and his family, they are lucky to be alive, but do not buy into the narrative from corporate media that this is about faith. It's very clear from the article that I read that this seems to be a financial issue. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.